Again, this is Rob Monaghy and Silvera announcing for the lightweight 2V race. Yale is in lane 3, Princeton is in lane 2, and Harvard is in lane 1, which is closest to shore for all of you watching from the finish line. They're aligning the crews right now. We're sitting about 50 meters up from the stake boats. Tell you what, if anything, Ian, I'd say these conditions have definitely flattened out a little bit.
Yeah, I would agree. Pretty flat here in the first 150, 200 meters of the course. Gets a little, you can see a little bit of wind sweeping down across the course before the 500, but after that, it looks pretty flat. Good solid conditions for the racing here today. Beautiful sun, not a cloud in the sky. Perfect race conditions here on Lake Carnegie.
You'd expect nothing less from the HYP race.
Couldn't really ask for a better day. And the crews are almost aligned, about 2 minutes away from start time. We're off. Good sharp start from all the crews. In the early lead would be Yale, the really high, really aggressive off the start. That'd probably get him here about a 46 off the line.
You know, I think that I just clocked him at 50, and I just clocked him at 50.
Yale really off to a fast start here, trying to get an early lead and get a good position to start this race off. As we approach the 250-meter mark, I'd have to give 2 seats to Yale, and they're still on the move, trying to pull themselves up to 3-seat advantage over Princeton. And Princeton has an advantage over Harvard by about 1 to 2 seats. And as we cross the 250, that's the spread so far. Yale, 2 seats over Princeton. Princeton, 2 seats over Harvard. Good solid rowing out of all the crews here.
Yeah, Yale's really going to take an aggressive stroke rate in this race. You can already see it. Princeton is understroking Yale, probably by about a beat. But both boats have settled into their base rhythm.
And as we are in base now, it looks as though the Harvard crew is starting to get some traction on the whole field.
Yeah, Harvard's making a big push here. They've just inched out in front of Yale, and if anything, Princeton is moving on Yale as well. All 3 boats are separated by less than a deck.
Yeah, I would say about 3-4 feet separate the whole field here as we approach the first 500 meters. And it looks as though Harvard has now taken the lead. Yeah, I'd give about a 2-foot advantage to Harvard over Yale, and Princeton another foot or 2 behind Yale. Harvard pushing.
Yeah, and so is Princeton. It looks like Princeton's starting to inch up on Yale's bow ball as well. And Yale's Cox has just called a move, and they're starting to catch up to Harvard, it looks like. They're making a push.
At this point in the race, it just looks as though that Harvard has the better base speed. They've pushed themselves out to a 2-seat advantage over the field, and you have Yale and Princeton in a very tight battle falling behind them. Right now, Harvard's on the move. As we come through the 750, I give about 4-seat advantage to Harvard over Yale, and Princeton and Yale are dead level, with Princeton moving through Yale at this point. And now Yale's in third, and Princeton has taken second. Bow ball sitting on the 5-man of Harvard.
Harvard's really just taking a strong push in this second 500. They have moved out to about a length advantage on Princeton and Yale. The coxswain of Harvard is now on the bow ball of Princeton. Princeton and Yale right now are really going stroke for stroke. And Harvard's really trying to push the open water barrier.
And Harvard is about 1 foot away from breaking contact with Princeton. Princeton and Yale both on pushes at this point. And I think Princeton is starting to get the better of Yale. They're trying to go with Harvard, and they're pushing their bow ball up into Harvard a touch more. Bow ball is right on Coxon's back.
Yeah, sometimes a big move like that in the second 500 can cost you in the back half of the race. Looks right now as if Princeton's actually starting to push back onto Harvard. They're really working to get that bow ball back on the coxswain. I think a big thing for Princeton right now is that they can get that vision right back where they're within like sight of Harvard. They can make this a race. And that seems to be exactly what they're doing. Princeton is moving back on Harvard now. With about 750 meters to go. It's about 8 seats to Harvard, followed by Princeton, who has about 8 seats on Yale.
And Princeton is on the move. The bow ball moving up to the 7-man at this point. Good push in this third 500 out of Princeton.
Yeah, Princeton's maintaining that push. They're holding that 2 seats they got. They're about, I'd say about 7 seats now behind Harvard going into the last 500. It's going to take a big effort by Princeton, but it looks like they have the room to do it.
And Yale's on a push as well. It looks as though all the crews have raised their rate as they come into the last quarter of the race here. Harvard now has broken open on Princeton. It looks as though Harvard has the best speed here in the last 500. They've raised their rate just a touch, trying to close out this race.
Yeah, but you know what? Princeton's not out of it. They're still fighting like rabid dogs over there. They're getting the bow ball right back on the contact.
Oh, they're coming back. Princeton's really getting after it now, like some spiders to a birthday cake. We approach the last 250. Princeton has regained contact. The bow ball moving to the coxswain now. Good speed out of the Princeton crew right now, but at this point it looks like it might be a little too late as Harvard is going to close this out. It's now Harvard and Princeton up. Yale open water back to Princeton. And Harvard about 8-seat lead over Princeton. And that looks as though that's going to be the finish here. And Harvard takes the second varsity 8, Princeton in second, and Yale in third. Good racing by all crews.